Okay, so in this video, we're actually going to walk through the process of setting up a development environment for the new SharePoint development framework. Now, the cool thing about these development environments for this new modern development for SharePoint is that it don't require you to have that heavy VM that we normally would have to remote into, or you get those beefy Alienware or those big workstation type laptops that weigh a couple of bricks with 16 gig of RAM or 24 gig of RAM, and you're trying to load SharePoint SQL and all the other stuff on your laptop. This development environment is going to be extremely light. It seems to be multi-platform capable, but all of my references are all of my examples will be using my Windows 10 laptop, which has a solid state and 16 gig of RAM, which is extremely fast and definitely doable for on-prem type development. But that's not what we're going to use it for. Now, to go ahead and get started, there's a couple ways to do this. Now, I personally have multiple tenants. I have many different flavors of tenants. I have an MSDN tenant to where I can, just do things as an MSDN, but it has its limitations because you only can have one org account. I also have a real business O365 E1 tenant, and I think that's what some of my past videos has been on. But actually, Microsoft, and I just found this out, Microsoft has this Developer Preview Tenant, which is absolutely free, and it seems like there's some limitations on how many users you can add, but I think for these tutorials and this purpose, I think that's going to be fine. So if you go to the day one video, the O365 Dev Challenge day one video, in the comment section, this first link is going to take you to that developer preview, and you can sign up here. You would get an email notification, and then your email, I think you have to confirm an email, then you get an email to get started. Once you click on this link here, this is actually when you create a Microsoft tenant in a live account. I think they probably do both of those at the same time. Once that's completed, go back to this email and then click on this link, and that's going to launch you into your dev tenant. So when you launch into the dev tenant, forgive me here, I'm trying to find the right screen here. Once you launch into your dev tenant, you may actually get something similar to this, and this is going to be the general office.com. Once you log in, this is your tenant, your subscription, what you have access to, and then once you click on SharePoint, you go to the SharePoint portion of O365. Now, while this is launching, I think, as I mentioned before, I think this, for the most part, it's going to be very similar to a business like an Enterprise One type tenant with some Outlook integration and all this other good stuff, very similar to MSN. And I think these tenants are only good for a year from the year that you sign up. There's an expiration date of when this will expire, and you can kind of see that here. So if you go into the app launcher, go into admin, and then I believe if you go under the subscription section, which is under billing, you should see, and I just set this guy up today. So here you have an expiration here. Now, as far as like adding subscriptions and all this other good stuff, if you actually want to keep it, I'm not 100% how that works. So, but in my mind, I would probably play it safe and go ahead and get a actual E1 tenant if you want to use this for some type of business or an ongoing playground, so you wouldn't have to rebuild things as you move along. Now, outside of that, go into the admin center. So the environment setup is really two parts. It's two parts. One, you have to set up your O365 tenant. That's actually super easy. There's a couple site collections. You add in a site column to a document library, and you're good to go. The second one is going to be to set up and install your nodes or your Node.js, but all your utilities and IDE and programs that are needed to do actual development on your laptop. Or if you still want to use a virtual machine, you can do that as well. And there are several different steps to do that. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and go into the SharePoint admin, and here, this is where you go to create site collection. I'm kind of thrown off here only because I haven't seen these options in the ribbon grouped out in this manner. But you hit the new private site collection, And basically what we're going to do, let's go ahead and create our development site collection. So this is like a dev environment within the tenant. You know, again, in O365, you just have a single tenant, and then within that, you have to carve out, and this is one option. You can carve out your dev, your QA, your UAT, and then your site collections that are going to be for production. There's no easy UI way to manage this. Possibly, you know, you can do PowerShell and script it and apply property bags or, you know, properties within the property bag to help manage those. But that becomes a little bit cumbersome only because those property bags that you set and add metadata to these site collections are not exposed via the UI. So it becomes a little bit cumbersome in that regard. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just call this Dev01. Right. If you're dealing with a large team, you may have multiple dev site collections. Usually a developer would get their own. I'm gonna go ahead and set the time zone to my local time zone here. Add myself as the site collection admin. And then these resources we really don't use because we're not dealing with sandbox solutions. So I'm gonna just throw, you know, a number much lower than Oh, this is me playing. Ignore this. So I can, let me do Devo2. I created a site collection before, prior to this video, just so I can walk through the steps and there were no hiccups. I didn't foresee this one because I deleted the site collection. It's still in the recycle bin. So that way that name is still reserved. So to avoid duplicate names, especially in the URL, Microsoft SharePoint scans the recycle bin as well to see if the name that you're selecting is not being used. And I clicked the wrong button. I was supposed to click OK and I clicked cancel. So much for walking through it pre-video to make sure everything goes smooth. All right, so let's try this again. So I'm going to do Devo2, developer site. Go ahead and hit this guy here, Eastern time zone. Make myself the site collection admin. Pop this into 10. And then click OK instead of cancel. And this should get my dev site collection. And we're good. Okay, so that one's is cooking right now. So let's go ahead and create our app catalog. Now, if you're not familiar with the app catalog, this is very similar to, it's used different, you know, for the SharePoint Development Framework, but it's very similar to the add-in model, right? With the add-in model, you have to have an app catalog, everything that you, as a, you know, custom developer. If you're custom developing the app, you push in the app catalog. It's available to employees within organization. And I believe, you know, you can use security and all this other good stuff to select which users should have access to it. So let's go here. We have to create an app catalog. So let's go to app catalog under the apps section. And then it says create app catalog site. And this is just going to be a site collection with a suffix. I usually put apps on mine. You know what, I might get an error on this one as well because I deleted this one, and I believe this may be sitting in the recycle bin. So let me just do apps 2, okay? And then Eastern, again, make myself the site collection administrator, and then drop the resource count. All this looks good, pretty straightforward. So all we've done was to create some site collections, so nothing too exciting there. Okay, so my dev site collection is complete. Now we're waiting for my app site collection to be completed. So while this is spinning, right, we don't have to sit here and wait because we actually don't need it as of right now. Let's go ahead into our dev site collection, and what we need to do, and this, now I don't know, like once this goes live, because I'm still doing this in preview mode, right? So I assume that once this goes RTM or even beta, and I'm not sure if preview is pre-beta or post-beta, or whatever the case may be, a lot of these manual steps may not be required, right? Like, you know, this site column that we have, because what, let me pull up my OneNote. So what we have in here, I'm gonna just spin this over. You guys won't be able to see it. Just a little flash there. We need to add this client site application ID site column to the default library in the dev site collection. So what we're going to do is just click on documents. Now this is the new modern UI document library. Go ahead to quick edit, hit the plus sign, and then I'm gonna go to more columns. Now I could use text, right, and start and paste that in, but the problem is, and I want to be safe with this, is that any option here that you select, SharePoint generates the internal name for this column random, and I think it may like be field and then a integer or something like that. What I'm gonna do more column types, and I'm gonna paste this in, and this is gonna be very similar to create column in the classic view for document library, where the first name you supply it will serve as both the display name and the internal name for that site column, with the understanding that you can go back into that column and then pretty up the display name. So I'm gonna play that just in case they have code that suspect or requires client-side application ID as an internal name. That's one less thing I have to worry about. I added text there. I don't think that's going to harm anything. So I hit done. So we should be good to go. So as of right now, the tenant, let's double check and see how far we got with our app site collection. If we have the new icon, I think we are good to go. So let's go here. Yep. All right, so app is set up and the dev site collection is set up. So we are pop into our environment. Now I've pasted in the steps, the abbreviated steps from the document. And basically what we have to install is Node.js, Visual. I'm using Visual Studio Code. Now you can use Visual Studio Enterprise, either Ultimate, Community, or whatever the case may be. 2015, I believe there's an update for that. But I'm not going to take that path for this tutorial. I'm actually going to use the Visual Studio Code path, which are most of the examples. Now, basically, all we have to do is go to Node.js, and all I do is, simple Google search to Node.js. And Node.js is going to be the so I guess the LTS version is what you want. So you go ahead and download this, click and make sure you get the right bit configuration for your version of Windows. I believe everyone should be doing 32-bit by now. But you download 3.5 and you run through the install process for that. I've already run through this process, so I'm not going to run through that. But if you need to, go ahead and install Node.js. Just pause the video and then resume it. Now, the next piece is to install Visual Studio Code. Right, so here you just go in and go ahead and grab that guy. And again, I have already downloaded and installed Visual Studio Code locally within this environment, so there's no need for me to run through that step again. Now, if you already have Visual Studio Code installed, you just want to make sure you run the latest version. So normally once you launch Visual Studio Code, you will see a blue icon somewhere along here. It's like a blue tab that it has like an update or or a notification that you're not running the latest version, so on and so forth. So you just want to go ahead and update that. Now once you have Node.js installed and then Visual Studio Code installed, what I do, I run through the command line, and I'm just using the built-in Windows 10 command prompt, but it seems as if, and I don't know if Node.js is doing this or if this is a new feature in Windows 10, but like my Control V, for example, is pasting in paths and things along those lines, so it seems to be more user-friendly. But what you want to do, you have to install the Node Package Manager, which is part of the Node.js package. And you have this command switch here. So it's npm I don't know why I'm typing this in. I should know better, because I make a lot of mistakes typing. So what you want to, I'm just copy this guy here. This is the command. So npm the G switch, the word install at next, right? So again, so I just copy that guy and I do a Control V, and then it runs through that process. Now I went through and confirmed these steps and went through all these installation steps prior to this video. So I'm actually not going to spend a lot of video time waiting for this to process. So run through these steps. Go ahead and pause the video. And then, once this process completes, just resume it and we'll go through the next step. Okay, so now that we have Package Manager installed, what we want to do is now, hold on one second, I have a difficulty here with the camera. Okay, so now that Package Manager is installed, what you want to do is go ahead and install, it seems like the build tools for, and this is only if you're doing Windows, right? So, you know, there's a build tools section here. So I'm gonna just copy and paste this guy here, and that's going to run through the process. Now, while this is running, you notice that, you know, I'm running Notepad, and, you know, obviously this is not formatted well. I know these sequences because the sequence, because I went through this process before. But if you look at the YouTube video for day one, within this video, there is also a link to the tutorial that actually walks through the tutorial by Microsoft actually walks through the environment setup. So here's a link to, you know, step-by-step in the environment, and we are on this step here. So yeah, you can definitely go through, or we went through the site collection, we added the site column. Oh, we didn't upload the SharePoint Workbench SPFx. Good thing we took a look at that. All right, so we'll take a look. We'll do that next. Oh, I got a bunch of errors. What's going on here? Administrative PowerShell. Oh, so I have to run, hold on, let me run this as an administrator. I'm just right click and run as admin. For some odd reason, I don't remember that step. I don't recall that step from before. All right, so let me just try this again. So that's good to know. We got we got a couple of good gotchas that I think would be critical for someone who's installing this locally. So you definitely want to run the command line prompt, or the command prompt in, run this administrator mode, so that way, you know, it can access. Seems like it's writing to the registry or something along those lines, where you definitely need that type of administrative privilege in order to make those types of updates. All right, so there are more optional tools. So while this is running, I'm just going through these notes. There are more optional tools that are required. No, they're optional. Sorry, I didn't mean to mix the word optional and required in the same sentence. But I decided to skip those. I didn't want to go too fancy. I wanted to do the bare minimum and really get this environment to the point to where I can just start to play around with the client-side web part and get it to deploy locally. So I didn't go through the step of doing the optional steps. All right, so now that's done. The next thing we want to do is oh no, it's not done, sorry. But once this completes, the next thing we want to do is go to npm node package manager. And this is cool, right? I mean, this is very similar to the NuGet packages that we have in Visual Studio, to where, you know, you can do package manager and do all those command prompts to bring in different packages and utilities. So now with this line, okay, it looks like it's done now. What this line is going to do is bring in Yeoman and Gulp. And I didn't realize that you can install these global, you know, that -G means global, I means install. And then this is the short code for the different packages. So I'm going to just copy this guy and then paste this in and then execute. And this window here is my admin window, and I'm going to just close this guy. We don't need that anymore. Doesn't have the administrative privileges that are needed. All right, so once the Yeoman and Gulp switch command package is installed, then we finally get to the nitty-gritty. Like, everything prior to this was just industry standard stuff, and now this line here is where we really get to the SharePoint specific, or the SharePoint Developer Framework specific item. So we're going to install this package from Microsoft. And it's just going to be this is the Yeoman generator for SharePoint, and this guy is going to be global. And obviously we can't run this until the Yeoman install finish. So I'm gonna actually go ahead and pause the video until this finishes, and then I'll Okay, so now that is completed. Now we're going to go to the fifth step, which is the package manager, the Yeoman package for SharePoint generator. Just go ahead and paste that in, and then hit the enter key, and that's going to run through the process, and then I'll pause until that's completed. Okay, so now it seems as if we have all the package manager and Yeoman generators installed. The one step that was missed was to install this workbench. So again, if you go to the YouTube video day 1, and then within the description of that video, you will see the step-by-step link. That's going to bring up the Microsoft tutorial page, and you just scroll down until you find the Upload SharePoint Workbench section. Now what I'm going to do a left click on the Workbench ASPX. This is going to bring me to the Git file, and then what I'm going to do is right click on Raw and do Save Link As. And this is going to download the workbench.aspx page locally to my laptop. And once this is done, I want to go to my dev tenant, the default the default library, and the dev site collection. How do we get back there? Let's see, what's the easiest way to get back? Click on the SharePoint tile from the app launcher, and then I'm gonna just erase all this and get to root URL, and this should take me to my no, this is not dev site collection, sorry. Go to, yeah, I know the URL, but I want to navigate to it. And this, you know, bookmarks are definitely key when dealing with alt 365, only because it's just so vast now. I mean, you're bouncing in and out of SharePoint, you're bouncing between site collections and all this other good stuff. So it's all over the place. So here I want to go to my dev02 tenant. I'm sorry, site collection. Keep calling it tenant for some odd reason. And then click on the documents library, and then go to upload upload file, and then just grab workbench.aspx from your folder wherever you download it, and then we should be good to go. And I have the client side ID column showing in this default view, and it seems like it appended some type of GUID to it, or added some GUID to it, but it's loading. Okay, so now we're good to go. So now that's the development framework. We are now positioned to go to the next video, which is the next video where actually go ahead and implement and play around with the first client-side web part and the SharePoint development framework, which is always Hello World. Hello World is usually the first one. But so that's it. That's it for the environment setup. I'll see you in the next video when we actually play around with the client web part.